The New York Giants yet again had a very disappointing season, but they now hold the number 3 pick in the draft, and they are on the verge of making what could be the biggest decision in franchise history. This is one of those drafts where pretty much anything can happen, and there is no clear-cut right choice, and I want to talk all about it. But before I begin, I would really appreciate it if you would drop a like and subscribe. It only takes 5 seconds, but you can always change your mind. We are on the road to 50,000 subscribers, and with your support, I believe that we can get there super fast. Alright, starting off, we should first talk about how since 2022, when they made the playoffs and even won a playoff wildcard game, this team has only taken massive steps back. They first of all paid Daniel Jones a huge contract because they truly believed in him after that 1 year, and that ended up being a huge mistake. As we all know, Daniel Jones played nowhere near the standard of what his contract was and ended up being released from the team this season, and they are now back to where they were, searching for a new QB. Now this is where things are going to get very interesting this offseason, because the Giants, coming off a 3-14 horrible season, now have the 3rd pick, but they could have had the 1st. However, Drew Lock pulled off a huge upset for them against the Colts, 45-33 in Week 17. This then drove them out of the 1st pick and put them at 3rd, which could still be a pretty good spot for them, but it was a big change that nobody wanted to see happen. I think the Giants' fate will really depend on what the Cleveland Browns, who hold the number 2 pick this year, really want to do. It is pretty obvious the Titans will likely be taking a QB with the 1st overall pick this year, and I think it's pretty likely that the pick will be Cam Ward from Miami, but if they do not go QB, which I think is extremely unlikely, then things get very interesting. But for the sake of this video, let's say the Titans do the expected and take Cam Ward with the 1st pick. Now this is where it becomes interesting. The Browns are obviously in need of a QB, or maybe even 2 with all of the Deshaun Watson drama going on, and the fact that he will likely never play another snap for the team again. However, it does not guarantee that they pick a QB. They could maybe even trade out and give the pick to a quarterback needy team in a trade. Maybe even the Giants if they really wanted to guarantee a QB. So let's take a look at a scenario where the Giants do take a quarterback, which is pretty much guaranteed to be Sheduer Sanders, and one where they do not. So scenario 1, the Giants are able to get Sheduer Sanders, and he will now become the QB of the future for them. So let's take a look at what this does for the Giants and how he fits into their team. The Giants have been reported to absolutely love Sanders and really want to take him. The question is just whether they are able to or not. But of course, in this situation, they are able to take him, and now he will be able to play alongside their star wide receiver they took last year in Malik Neighbors. Now with Sheduer Sanders, who has a tendency to take a lot of sacks, they need to go all out in free agency and the rest of their draft to sign linemen in the spots that need to be filled to protect Sanders to the best of their ability. Sheduer Sanders is the type of player that can come in and instantly turn this team around, especially if they surround him with the right supporting cast. Brian Daboll was huge in the development of Josh Allen, and I think he could be huge in the development of Sanders as well. Obviously, the Giants lost Saquon Barkley over the last offseason, which was absolutely a huge blow as he had his best season yet with over 2,000 yards, and if they still had him, I believe that could be an incredible situation, but obviously they don't, which led them to find Tracy, who had a breakout season this year with over 1,000 total yards and 6 touchdowns. And on top of that, he wasn't even the starter at the beginning of the year. They have truly found a gem in him, and although he is nowhere near Barkley obviously, he is a very serviceable RB1, and now with that position addressed, they can go elsewhere. A big potential move for them could be T. Higgins this offseason. The Giants are projected to have $60 million in cap space, and they could create more by restructuring some deals, and with that money, I believe pairing T. Higgins with Malik Neighbors launches this offense in the right direction. Having these two would give Sheduer Sanders the talent he is used to having at the wide receiver position, and if the Giants were to offer T. Higgins enough money, I believe he is the kind of player who would rather get paid than take less money and play for a contender. So I believe it is very realistic that the Giants could go out and do something like this. Hopefully they can get Theo Johnson up and running again from his foot injury and get him into this offense as the tight end number 1 and create a core of Sheduer Sanders, Tracy, Neighbors, Higgins, and then of course Johnson. And if they can get that with a solid O-line and Brian Daboll's development, I think this Giants offense could become something special. Obviously it will take time, but they will be headed on that path. In terms of football, Sanders is extremely accurate, and when he has a clean pocket, can make timely throws and has great escapability as well, and can extend plays all the time, which may be needed playing behind the Giants O-line, especially if they do not end up making any new moves in that regard. And some problems with Sanders include holding onto the ball too long and maybe trying to make too many plays. His arm strength has also been questioned, as well as the fact that he is sometimes a questionable leader, which could be an issue, but could also light a much needed fire into this organization. And Giants fans deserve an electric player like him because they have been so bad recently outside of that one playoff win and have had it pretty rough. So I think it would be pretty cool to see Sanders head there. Now let's look at scenario 2, where either the Browns take Sanders or they trade the pick to a team that does, and now they are at the 3rd pick and they need to go best player available. They should then take Heisman Trophy winner Travis Hunter to try to bring some electricity back to the city. I'll admit, I really do like Abdul Carter. I'm a big fan of his, but I just don't think you pass up Hunter because of his versatility. It is expected by most that Travis will most likely play corner in the NFL, which could help the Giants tremendously, and even if he just plays a few snaps a game on offense, we will all see how quickly he can change a game in one play, so it could help them on that side of the ball as well. And let's just say it how it is. The Giants defense was not great in 2024, and ranked 24th in the league in total yards per game allowed and 21st in points allowed. But when you look at some of the talent they possess, they have some guys who can still be very good players for this defense, such as they have a pretty solid D-line with Dexter Lawrence leading it all, of course, and a couple of talented edge rushers in Brian Burns and Thibs. And although they were not great against the run last year, those three combined for 23 sacks, and they could look to step it up this year as well. They could even look to bring back Azeez Ojulari next year, who had 6 sacks. But however, I think they need to spend that money elsewhere, specifically within the trenches on the O-line. They also have Micah McFadden, a very solid linebacker, but in the secondary they are not great, especially at corner, as after Drew Phillips it gets very questionable, and that is where Travis Hunter really comes into play. Besides winning Heisman, Hunter also won the nation's best CB and was shut down all year, as there are clips of him shutting down 3 different routes in a levels concept at once and getting an interception out of it, which is absolutely nuts. Hunter will come in and immediately be the number 1 corner on the roster, and I think he would help the defense out on the back end tremendously, which is the area they struggle in the most. With Hunter landing with them in this situation, they would obviously still need to address the quarterback position in free agency, or possibly even a late round pick on a guy like Jackson Dart, a Will Howard, maybe even a Quinn Ewers or Jalen Milroe. There are options in free agency as well, of course, like Justin Fields or Sam Darnold, and maybe they do a combination of both, or who knows, maybe even they land Shadeur and still try to bring in a vet as well. But let's just say in this case, they signed Justin Fields and draft a late round QB. I think they still would need to go heavy on the O-line and push hard for T. Higgins to pair alongside Neighbors. But looking at it either way, I think after this offseason is over, the Giants will be heading in the right direction in terms of quarterback. And I think there are a lot of guys available that would bring that spark to New York they have been craving for and only saw in Odell Beckham and Saquon Barkley over the recent years. Giants fans have been through a lot, and they deserve one of these guys, and I hope for their sake they end up landing one and it springs them in the right direction. So all in all, the Giants' fate kind of relies on the Browns and what they end up wanting to do at 2. That's about it for this video. Thank you all so much if you made it to this point, and if you enjoyed and haven't yet, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe because your support truly does mean the world. And also, let me know what you would like to see next, and until then, I will see you all later.